That was a pitch-black night. I woke up suddenly for no clear reason. The room was eerily silent, without a sound except for the steady rhythm of my breathing and the strong beating of my heart in my chest. I lay still on the bed, my eyes wide open staring at the ceiling, trying to adapt to the darkness engulfing me. However, what woke me wasn't a dream, but a very small sound coming from beside the bed. A soft noise, as if something was deliberately keeping quiet, stealthily moving just a few steps away from me. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, the combination of darkness and silence creating an illusion of the presence of something. But the feeling of unease grew stronger and stronger. My ears became more sensitive than ever, picking up every sound, no matter how small. Every whistling of the wind outside the window, every faint sound echoing in the room made me feel paralyzed. The atmosphere was heavy, thick, as if something not of this world was present. My eyes gradually got used to the darkness. While trying to identify everything around me, I suddenly realized something horrifying. This was no longer ordinary darkness. What I was seeing was not silent night, but emptiness. A deep void, as if looking back at me. And from that very void, I realized something was standing at the end of the bed. It was not a human, nor a shadow created by my imagination. It was a presence. A creature looking at me through two empty eye sockets. I couldn't see its face clearly, but I knew one thing for sure. I was not alone in this room. Gradually, my eyes began to adjust to the darkness. Although the surroundings were still shrouded in thick night, I could feel the space more clearly. But the feeling of panic in my heart did not subside at all. On the contrary, it became worse. I suddenly realized that the darkness engulfing the room was not simply the absence of light. It was a strange form of emptiness, a cold void watching me. And then I realized that gaze was coming from two black, empty eye sockets belonging to some unknown creature standing at the end of the bed. I couldn't move. The feeling of fear locked my body like a vivid nightmare. The creature didn't say anything, just stood motionless with a terrifying presence. Its two deep black eye sockets seemed to want to suck me in, as if they contained a bottomless abyss. There was no gaze, no emotion, only complete emptiness, a soulless void, but one that made me shudder more than any hateful look. Then, the narration intervened, cutting through the haunting scene. Hello, it's me again. Today I will tell you about one of the most notorious villains in the world of creepypasta, Eyeless Jack. The voice was even but cold, as if introducing a familiar entity in the fear of humanity. Eyeless Jack, a humanoid creature that specializes in removing the organs of its victims to eat. His nickname originates from his characteristic appearance, always appearing in a hoodie and wearing a blue mask, revealing two eye sockets oozing black liquid. Although the mask covers most of his face, it is the emptiness where his eyes should be that sows terror. He needs no words, because that soulless gaze is enough to turn sleep into a nightmare. Eyeless Jack, the name that has become a nightmare in the community of creepypasta enthusiasts. He is not a human, but a humanoid entity that hunts at night and takes the organs of its victims to eat. He doesn't kill to satisfy cruelty, but seemingly only because of a hunger that is never quenched. The nickname Eyeless Jack, Jack without eyes, comes from the most prominent detail. Two large, empty black eye sockets on a face obscured by a blue mask. Although black liquid continuously oozes from the eye sockets, there are no eyeballs inside, only a soulless, deadly void. In later developed versions of the original story, Eyeless Jack is often depicted appearing in haunting places, standing at the foot of the bed or leaning from the head of the bed staring at sleeping victims. The image of him appearing in a dark, silent, soundless room, but bringing a living nightmare, has made many people's hair stand on end just by imagining it. His appearance always retains its terrifying aspect, a dark coat covering his entire body, a blue mask covering almost his entire face. On that face, there is no nose or mouth, and other features are also blurred, leaving only two deep holes where the eyes should be. Common images of Eyeless Jack are often from a low angle, as if the victim is lying down looking up, seeing him bending down from above, a blank, deadly face as if nothingness is coming to life. It all started after I moved in with my brother, Adwin. My old house had just been foreclosed, and in that turmoil, Adwin offered me to live with him. 10 years had passed since we last met, so we were both very excited about the time ahead. After a tiring moving day, I quickly fell asleep, not suspecting that it would be the beginning of a series of terrifying events to come. The first week passed quite peacefully, but since then I started hearing strange sounds around 1 a.m. The soft rustling outside the window made me simply think it was raccoons. I wasn't too worried and tried to go back to sleep. The next morning I told Adwin, and he agreed that it could just be wildlife. Zuiday la doan van ban banda kungkap, duk zungwin kompim but ki cheated now. However, things became more serious the following night. I was sleeping when I suddenly heard the window being opened, followed by a loud thud as if something had just jumped into the room. I sat up, my eyes darting around, but the room was still empty. Nothing unusual, except for a creepy feeling creeping into my heart. The next morning, while preparing breakfast, Adwin suddenly dropped his coffee cup when he saw me. He panicked and gave me a mirror to look at. A long cut had appeared on my left cheek without me noticing. We immediately went to the hospital. The doctor initially suspected I had sleepwalking, but then he pulled up my shirt and we both froze. There was a long stitch mark right on my abdomen. With a serious face, he said, "Somehow, your left kidney was removed last night." I couldn't believe it. Everything was like a nightmare I never thought would happen in real life. After the bizarre kidney removal, I thought things couldn't get any worse, but it turned out that was just the beginning. Around midnight that night, I was awakened again, this time not by a sound, but by a gaze. When I opened my eyes, I immediately encountered the terrifying face of a strange creature leaning close, facing me just a handspan away. It wore a black hoodie, its face covered by a dark blue mask with no nose, no mouth, and no eyes, only two deep, empty black eye sockets oozing thick black liquid. My whole body seemed to freeze. Its presence made me gasp for breath in fear. I knew clearly that this was no longer sleepwalking or an illusion. This thing was real. In that moment of extreme tension, I suddenly remembered the camera placed near the fireplace. With all the strength I had left, I reached out, grabbed it, and snapped a picture. As soon as the flash from the camera went off, the creature screamed madly and lunged at me. It tried to pin me down on the bed, its hands clawing at my chest as if trying to rip out my lungs. In a panic, I struggled and luckily landed a strong kick on its face, enough to break free and rush out of the room. I only managed to grab my wallet. I left everything else behind. I ran mindlessly through the woods behind the house until I stumbled and fell unconscious because it was too dark. When I woke up, I found myself lying on a hospital bed. The same doctor from before walked in and announced, "The good news is you only have minor injuries. Your parents are on their way to pick you up. But the bad news is your brother has been murdered. His body is not intact. We only found a few remains." My heart went numb. Everything I feared had truly become real. After hearing the news that my brother Adwin had been brutally murdered and his body was not intact, I almost couldn't believe my ears. Everything was just like a prolonged nightmare I couldn't wake up from. My parents picked me up from the hospital. No one spoke during the entire drive home. The atmosphere in the car was thick with sorrow, pain, and utter bewilderment. Despite the immense fear in my heart, I still had to return to Adwin's house to collect my remaining belongings. The house was now colder and more gloomy than ever. Every wall, every small corner of the house seemed to reek of death. I entered my room, which used to be the safest place, but now sent shivers down my spine. The air felt heavy, pressing down on my shoulders, but I tried to remain calm. I picked up the camera I had used the night before out of habit, but then suddenly stopped when my eyes caught the hallway leading to the bedrooms. There, in the dim light, I saw Adwin's body sprawled out. Next to him was a small object. I approached, stunned. On one side was the mangled body of my brother, on the other was what I had lost. I bent down and carefully picked up the object. The moment I realized what it was, my whole body convulsed. In my hand was my left kidney, the organ that had been taken from my body a few days ago. But it was no longer intact. The kidney looked as if someone had half-eaten it, gnawed, torn, and still covered in that disgusting, thick black liquid. A strong, fishy smell assaulted my nostrils, almost making me vomit on the spot. I frantically ran out of the house, straight into my parents' car, waiting outside. My heart was pounding wildly, my hand still clutching that horrifying thing. I couldn't say a word, couldn't utter the story I had just witnessed. Everything was too terrible, too surreal to believe it had actually happened. Since that day, I haven't been myself anymore. Although I left that house, although my parents always tried to stay by my side to comfort me, in my mind, the image of Adwin's corpse, the bloodied kidney, and those empty black eyes, still haunted my every sleep. I tried to tell everything to the police, to the psychiatrist, but no one believed me. They thought I was delusional after the shock of losing a loved one, that it was all hallucinations. But I knew clearly what I had seen, what I had survived. I still kept the camera from that night, but the picture taken, it was completely blank, nothing but a flash of light. It was as if that creature had never existed, or worse, it didn't belong to this world. Now, every night I sleep with the lights on, not daring to turn my face to the wall, because I know, just one moment of carelessness, Eyeless Jack will return, and next time, I might not be lucky enough to escape again.